PYT Sports, everybody. We covered the Giants recently. Now we're moving on, covering the Eagles, and joining us, Sheil Kapadia with Philly.com. Sheil, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm going to start with the story circulating today, which I can't quite figure out. The headlines don't seem to match the story. The headlines indicate that Mike Vick saying that the NFL and Roger Goodell steered him to the Eagles, but it doesn't quite read like any significant pressure was put on him to go to the Eagles. It sounds to me like maybe he was told to go to a situation where maybe he wasn't starting right away and maybe where there was less pressure. Am I reading that correctly? It doesn't read like the conspiracy that the headlines maybe make it out to be.
Yeah, it depends on what conclusion you want to draw. I mean, Vick did say in the article that initially he did not want to come to Philadelphia to be a third-string quarterback. He preferred to go start somewhere like Cincinnati or Buffalo, which he said he had the opportunity to go to either of those places. And then he said he did, have a meeting and talk to Commissioner Goodell and some other NFL reps, and then decided that Philadelphia would be the best place for him. So I think that's where we're kind of drawing the conclusions that did Goodell want him to be in a place where there was a little more stability, where he wouldn't have to play right away, where he could kind of have a year to get his bearings about him after being released from prison, and then see where his NFL career went. So, Michael Vick let out a statement earlier this afternoon saying that Goodell did not tell him where to go or direct him where to go, and that he made that decision. So now you're seeing some reaction and some damage control there, I guess.
Yeah, it just read to me like Goodell steering him to since Goodell had sort of mentored him after he got out of prison, that it seemed like Goodell steering him to a more stable, less pressure-filled situation, not so much steering him to the Eagles. That's all I was really getting at.
Yeah, I don't think that, anyone who thinks that Goodell thought Vick was going to be the player he became last year and wanted the Eagles to have him. Now, that stuff is way over the top, because no one even knew if the guy was going to be able to play when he got out of prison. So I think you're right there. If there was any guidance or steering towards Philadelphia, it was because he felt that was the best place for him to kind of rehab his image, not necessarily because he wanted Vick to help the Eagles win football games.
Sheil, there are so many guys that signed with the Eagles this offseason, specifically Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Jason Babin, to name a few. Do these guys feel like there's a target on their back, and they're kind of, it's tough to say now, but they have this Miami Heat mentality to their team?
I don't think so. I do think that they realize that teams are going to be kind of gunning for them, and that they acquired all this talent and has been the story here of the offseason. But if anything, Andy Reid has been a guy who can really keep his players grounded and does not let them read those press clippings or get a big head. So the Eagles are a franchise that has never won a Super Bowl, and the current ownership certainly has been close with 5 NFC championships and 1 Super Bowl appearance, and they know what it takes, or they know that how hard it is to win that Super Bowl. So the Eagles aren't taking anything for granted. I think Vince Young made the Dream Team comment, and Jason Babin had to tweet about the Miami Heat, but I think those were isolated incidents, and this is a team that knows it has a lot of work ahead of it.
In your opinion, do you think that those remarks by Vince Young and Jason Babin were a mistake?
I think they were, but I also think, they were certainly taken a little bit out of context, but those guys have to be aware that in this day and age, that's going to happen. But yes, I'm sure if you ask Vince Young, or better yet, if you ask management and the coaching staff, do you wish they didn't say those things, I'm sure they would say yes.
I'm looking at the schedule, and man, as good as the Eagles have the potential to be, that is a really tough schedule, isn't it?
It is, but, I think we get carried away with that sometimes, too. I think every year, 5 NFL teams that didn't make the playoffs the previous year end up making it. I think that's happened for something like 15 straight seasons. So I try not to get too caught up in that. The NFC games are always tough, although the Redskins obviously don't seem like they're gonna be that good this year. But you just never know which teams are going to be good and which aren't from a year-to-year basis. So certainly, I wouldn't say it's the hardest schedule in the league. I wouldn't say it's the easiest, but they're going to certainly have their work cut out for them in some of those matchups.
Let's head out to social media. Ryan Edwards asked you, if the Eagles do not produce results this year, is Andy Reid done in Philly?
I don't think so. He's under contract for 3 more seasons now. It'd be rare for them to allow him to coach that final season in 2013 without a new contract. You certainly don't want a lame duck coach, but everything you hear from the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, general manager Howie Roseman, president Joe Banner, they're still in Andy Reid's corner, and they don't think that they have failed to win a Super Bowl because of Andy Reid. They think they've gotten that close because of Andy Reid. And to his credit, a lot of these free agents who have come here, including Vince Young, who you mentioned, really singled out Reid as a big factor for why they wanted to play here. He doesn't throw his players under the bus. He really works with guys. He takes risks on guys like we saw with Michael Vick. So he hasn't won that Super Bowl yet, but I think he's earned a pretty good reputation here with the players.
Let me put you on the spot with the final question here. Who's better, Mike Vick or Rex Grossman?
Oh, man, that's a tough one, but I think right now I'm going to have to go with Michael Vick.
He played well against the Steelers. I'm just saying, don't discount. No, go ahead and discount Rex Grossman.
Are you going to do that with every interview we do?
I am, man. I grew up a Redskin fan. They've brought me and every other Redskin fan shame, and not because they're bad, but because Dan Snyder is a douchebag. Oh, yeah, real quick, one final question. The over-under on the Eagles, I love, I don't want to pretend like people don't gamble. It's 10.5. What do you think, over or under?
I would go over. I think 11 wins is the number I've been signaling out here in the preseason. We'll see what happens with injuries, but with the moves they made in the offseason, I think that's a realistic expectation.
Sheil Kapadia from Philly.com. Thanks for talking to us.
All right, take care, guys.